This is another one of the lost reviews. Now, I gave more or less my review on the Geek News Reviews and Opinions podcast, but for those of you who wanted my full thoughts on Gem and the Holograms, yeah, the relevance window is kind of closed, especially considering that Universal pulled it from theaters, well, here is basically the review proper that I never got to record because, well, if you recall that episode of Geek News Reviews and Opinions, I was, well, fuming. Enjoy! Let me first begin by saying that Gem and the Holograms was before my time. I wasn't even born yet. So, all I can say is I'm basically judging this film on the merits of the film itself. I mean, I am vaguely familiar. Vaguely. However, I find myself reminded of two things when I think about this film again, and these are the things that I kept thinking of as I was watching the film proper. First, I'm reminded of the adaptation of Annie by director Will Gluck, the one that starred Jamie Foxx and Quevizane Wallace as, well, William Stacks and Annie respectively. Because that's a film that's an example of a film being directed by someone who has little to no respect for the source material and seems to have a seething contempt for it. And the second thing I'm reminded of is DMC Devil May Cry, Ninja Theory's controversial reboot that made a bunch of last-minute changes in a desperate attempt to appeal to the old fanbase. This is the position that Allspark Pictures, Hasbro's new production arm, finds itself in. Watching this film, it felt like I was watching two films that were cut together. The first was the big middle finger to the fanbase that we saw in all the trailers, and the second was a film that was somewhat formulaic, but trying to tell a decent mystery story. The problem is that aspect, the aspect that has the most engaging scenes, the best character moments, the parts that actually make you actually care about the story, is overpowered by all of the other crap. The crap that is basically saying, oh, these are going to be like a large music video thing to sell something. Ugh. This film reeks of last-minute changes made by Hasbro in desperation after the huge backlash the trailer got. And this is especially visible when you look at the very cheap-looking sequel hook. I mean, the sets look cheaper, the costumes look cheaper, it feels all like it was shot at the last minute in a way to try to appease the fanbase after the first trailer went out. The reason I mention this is because the film tries working in lines from the lyrics to the original theme song to Gem, but it does it in a way that is very backhanded, as almost it's trying to insult the audience for saying, well, see, we got these lined in, what more do you want from us? I mean, I was halfway expecting to hear the commentary from Uwe Boll saying, oh yeah, well, we got that in there, what more do you want from me? What also doesn't help is that some of the plot points are what you would probably call idiot points, where these plot points could only happen because the main characters are stupid. The reason that those plot points bother me is because in the other half of the film that's actually decent, we see these characters actually be moderately intelligent and clever as they're trying to solve this mystery about this mysterious invention that Gem's father had left behind. And it just clashes because we have these characters doing really clever things, although they're not like completely perfect, but we see them actually being resourceful, but then it just clashes with the other elements of the plot that are railroaded into this film because it's basically trying to be pushing about like, oh, rise and fall of some musician and all that usual formulaic stuff that didn't need to be in this film at all, but was put into this film because one of the producers is Scooter Braun. Another thing that bothers me is how closely this film tries to tie its story to YouTube and social media. And it's very clear that the screenwriters had no idea how YouTube virality actually works. I mean, people don't become popular just by uploading one video when they're trying to get famous for their music. I mean, videos that go viral from just one upload, that's your cat videos, your kids doing something stupid videos, or some weird lightning in a bottle sort of thing, like Gangnam Style, even though Psy has a moderate following in South Korea already, so I don't really think that counts. But if you look at a lot of the YouTube channels done by people who are actually trying to get famous for their music, well, they don't usually get famous just because of one video. Case in point, Pella K, Lindsay Sterling, Hank Green, Andrew Wong, Hyod9, Peter Hollins, Rhett and Link. Even Justin Bieber got famous through YouTube, but not because of one video, but because of hard work, of him doing numerous videos, some of which never even went viral. The point is, this is what happens when you have screenwriters writing about YouTube when they have no idea how YouTube actually works. Speaking of which, having the music of the film come from actual YouTube videos I get that. That's an interesting idea, especially if it's a film about people who became popular through YouTube. But you didn't need to constantly cut to said videos to point out the fact that it came from YouTube. You could have just saved that for the end credits and just have the music be the music. I mean, it was just distracting it, and it's just pointless symbolism that is just being hammered into your head repeatedly, and it serves no purpose. As a result, you take our attention away from the movie and the story that we're trying to watch, and therefore make us less likely to actually care about anything that's going on, because we're constantly it's like basically seeing a bunch of pop-up ads in the middle of a feature film that you're saying like, oh, look at the stuff from this YouTuber, look at stuff from this YouTuber. You could have saved all of that for the end credits, or even do like a behind-the-scenes featurette saying, oh yeah, well, we got music from all of these people. Unless you did it illegally and didn't actually get the permission, but that's a whole separate can of worms. As for the editing as a whole, the style is just all over the place. Like I mentioned, it feels like we're watching two films smashed together, as it doesn't know if it's trying to be a docudrama, if it's trying to be a musical film, a concert film, or a straightforward film that just happens to have music in it. It never settles on what it's trying to be. Never before have I seen a film that got me so close to winning me over, only to have the next scene immediately undo all of that by either doing something really stupid or nonsensical that just takes away from the story as a whole. As such, this film left me feeling very pissed off. And part of what makes this infuriating is some of the poorly written side characters and the needless celebrity cameos that just automatically date this film. I mean, I get it. It's a story about fame, but you don't need to show actual celebrities and have a bunch of these cameos to hammer the point home. We get it, she already became famous. You don't have to have people like Nick Cannon coming out of nowhere. As far as the side characters, the villain. I mean, I've seen transparent villains, but when you have a villain that's so transparently evil from the get-go, having those moments where she's supposed to be on our side just feel kind of pointless because, well, it's obvious that she is evil. She has bad guy written all over her. Why are you wasting your time in trying to show that she's somehow not a bad person when we already know it? And even then, as an audience, we're not really given much reason to trust her, and that's something that a lot of people get wrong about this idea. You need to find a way to make the character come across as trustworthy first and foremost, before you have them become evil and realize that they were the bad guy the whole time. The last thing that bothers me is just how in the final moments, they then try to basically market it as the start of a new franchise. I felt like that there were just so many problems that people had with the film that they decided to basically write it off as saying, oh, well, this is a prequel to the story. It's not actually like the first story. This is a prequel to the main story that we all know and love. It just felt so slapdash that, well, it felt like they were doing a bunch of last-minute damage control because of all the backlash they got from the initial trailers. As for the remaining technical aspects, the music is so-so. It just sounds like a lot of the same typical pop music we've heard for so long, except they added too much bass and percussion to the point where they actually drown out the main vocals that are supposed to be the thing that gets stuck in your head. Speaking of which, there's just nothing really that memorable. Not really any earworms, both good or bad. It's just all blah. I mean, all the music in this film sounds the same. I mean, there's literally nothing memorable about it. There's no other way to say it, people. This film is a mess. I mean, it's constantly at odds with itself in regards to what kind of story it's trying to tell. Between the clashing visual and narrative styles, it just never settles on what it's supposed to be. I mean, there's potential with this IP, but this film feels like an ashcan film, a film that's not made to be seen by the public, but a film that's made just for the sole purpose of making sure you hold on to the rights to a certain intellectual property. I mean, case in point, the Fantastic Four film by Roger Corman, or that weird Warren Beatty as Dick Tracy interview with Leonard Maltin. Those are examples of films made for the purpose of holding on to the rights, but not for the purpose of actually being seen by the public. And again, there's potential with this franchise. You could have done something really good, but Hasbro gave it to all the wrong people. And as such, it's a mess. I mean, from what I've heard, fans of the actual franchise absolutely hated this movie, and I don't blame them. I'm not even familiar with the franchise, and I hated this movie. And it's a good thing that people didn't actually pay to see it because, well, Universal and Hasbro got the message because they pulled it within 2 weeks. That's how bad the film was. That's how bad the film is, and it's not even so bad it's good. It's one of those bad films that's not even enjoyable to watch for the fact that it's bad. It's the kind of bad movie where it's just blah. There's nothing good about it, nothing even entertainingly bad about it. As such, Gem and the Holograms gets a 2 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Ronnie's Reviews. I'm surprised I could still muster that much anger about the film, but there you go. Well, if you've watched this far, thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time.